we know Evan is a good player. He's one of West Indies' best white ball cricketer. He's been out for a while, but it's good to see that he come back and he stands with authority. I've worked with him a while now, and I know what he can do. I'm not surprised, and hopefully that he will continue to do.
Welcome to the West Indies Cricket Development Academy channel, West Indies Tour of Sri Lanka 2024. We're glad and happy to be back here with you to review very brief today the 3 ODIs between the West Indies and Sri Lanka. You won't believe West Indies ODI performance. That's our topic today. We thank you for joining all over the world that you join us. Thank you for joining, as you have heard there just now, an interview with Sheffin Rutherford talking about his ODI performance and that of Evan Lewis. I have with me, as per usual, the Honorary Secretary of the Cricket Hall of Fame. He's also a fellow journalist, Mr. Dale Brown. He's from New Jersey. We also have with us Cricket Hall of Famer and fellow journalist living in Southern California, Hall of Famer Dennis Heath, and yours truly, Mr. Codlin. We are here to review the 3 ODIs between West Indies and Sri Lanka that finished yesterday in favor of the West Indies, and we're glad and happy that they were able to come out victorious in the final ODI yesterday. Mr. Brown, is a marked improvement from 2020 when we were whitewashed 3-0.
Yes, good evening, Mr. Codlin, and greetings to Mr. Heath, my fellow panelist, and greetings to the world out there who have taken the time to listen to us as we try to dissect what went on in that the just concluded series. Well, it's an improvement in that we did not get whitewashed. And it's an improvement that we were 2-0 down and managed to win the last game. And that would have hopefully sent a message to the players, especially after reading what Sheffin Rutherford had to say at the conclusion of the second match, when he was speaking about the batsmen needing to be patient and needing to pick their spots and which balls to attack and which balls to defend, and to get used to the bowlers before they launch an attack. And he has led by example, as we know, with 3 half centuries across the 3 games. And yesterday he came out, promoted in the order to number 4, and batted, of course, extremely well, along with Evan Lewis. And, I also think Lewis, you could see he was batting very well before Rutherford came out to bat. But his confidence rose a great deal, because even though he and Hope had put on some valuable runs, they added 72 runs, and that must not be discounted. Hope only made 22, but it was extremely important for him to stay there and not expose the rest of the batsmen too early in this chase, because as we know, the game was reduced to 23 overs. And the West Indies, so I think Hope batted well, very important stand of 72 runs from 54 balls. And then Rutherford came in and backed up what he said before the game. So, yes, they lost the series, but thank God they won the game yesterday and won it in somewhat with a dominating batting performance by Lewis, who remind us of the days when we used to try to compare him to Chris Gale. and Rutherford, who is now proven across formats that he's a formidable player when he's when he's on form.
Absolutely. Thank you for your opening thoughts, Mr. Brown. We'll surely come back to you again after we hear from Hall of Famer Dennis Heath. You call for the inclusion of Joel Andrews, even though we have not gotten to see him batted in this ODI game, but him being on the field, feeling some very good deliveries, getting the opportunity to rub shoulders with the senior players. How pleasing are you that the management found it necessary to give him a go in the final game, a dead rubber? Nevertheless, very important that he get that first ODI cap, get the nerves outside of him. Hall of Famer Heath.
Thank you, Mr. Codlin, and good afternoon to Brother Dale, and welcome to the listeners and viewers of the West Indies Cricket Development Association Academy, I should say, TV channel. We are happy you're able to join us, and we hope you will come back again the next time we're on. I'm certainly, before I go forward, must give kudos to the Sri Lankan team, because they have played a very aggressive series against the West Indies. They have delivered. Their performance was first rate, and it was up to the West Indies to take the fight back to Sri Lanka. Well done, Sri Lanka. You've achieved the series victory, both in the T20 and the ODI. And for that, we saw some very good performances from the Sri Lankan players. I was very delighted to see Joel Andrew get the opportunity to rub shoulders, and more than rub shoulders, but to perform alongside players who I'm sure must be considered his heroes. And to watch his delight when he was awarded his cap and his performance on the field, you know, pulling that cap over his head and keeping it there shows just how proud he felt. And sitting here in front of the screen watching him and his performance, I too felt a measure of real satisfaction. And I'm sure the West Indies Cricket Development Academy may well also tip their hat, because somehow there is a connection between Joel Andrew and the West Indies Cricket Development Academy that I've heard of. So all around, congratulations. Sad that he didn't get to perform because of the inclement weather, but nonetheless, it has begun, and I think he should certainly be included in the upcoming squad for the England series. Also, some sad news in terms of Aidan Walsh Jr. Aidan Walsh has always had that, he's got the talent and the skills, but unfortunately over the years, he has been pushed, pulled, left out at times, which meant that he's never been able to get that full opportunity to participate at the international level or at the national level in many instances. So I'm happy to see that he got an opportunity. Very disappointed that the opportunity came with all that rain and a wet ball, which meant that his performance, in my opinion, cannot be judged on that one instance with that wet ball. So while he was dropped for the third and final match, I don't think that that was necessarily an indication of being dropped because his performance was lacking. I hope that he will get another opportunity to perform for the West Indies somewhere down the road. Rutherford and Lewis, my goodness, how refreshing. Rutherford has now cemented in my book an opportunity and a position and a place in the West Indies squad and West Indies team, not just at the T20 level, but also at the ODI. His performance was absolutely sparkling, exciting, entertaining. And of course, we saw a level of discipline in his performance And he certainly showed that he has what it takes over these next 3 days. So from now on, if he does fail in 1 or 2 matches, I still say that his place should be guaranteed, because we know when the chips are down, he certainly know how to pick them up and perform. Congratulations to Lewis. Lewis has shown in the 1T20 where he scored that magnificent batch of runs, he came back, and to score 100 in 61 balls is certainly indicative of another player who has had a rebirth, because since his previous performance in the 2021, he has been languishing on the sidelines. Now he has shown that he has now recognized where he wants to be and how much he has to contribute to West Indies cricket. So I definitely tip my hat to Lewis, and I'm looking forward to both Lewis, Rutherford, and of course Joel Andrews being included in the squad for the England tour beginning next Sunday. I know the West Indies have not yet named the squad, but I'm looking forward to that coming out in the next couple of days. Congratulations again to Sri Lanka for their performance, and I take my hat off to the West Indies for rising to the occasion on this rain-affected match in which they performed so admirably. And congratulations, I look forward to next Sunday.
Yeah, just editorial note, the first ODI between the West Indies and England start Eastern Caribbean time 2:30. That's on Thursday, there in Antigua, and we will be on Wednesday to give a preview of that first game, and so we'll do that. So catch us for that. We are just doing an abbreviated show this evening to close off the Sri Lanka series. As the viewers come on, please like this stream and subscribe to our channel as we continue to ask for your support in delivering these cricket shows to you, the viewers. You liking this stream is very, very important, and you subscribing to the channel is even more important as well. And we are very happy that Joel Andrews has made his debut. We have spoke to Mr. Winston Benjamin some time ago to include him. He was a scout there in Antigua, and he recruited Joel Andrews. We had the former West Indies level 2 certified coach, Mr. Cian Ward, used to be coach with us here at the Development Academy, and he usually gave Mr. Andrews some great advice, help him with his batting, his concentration, and we usually be on every Wednesday night giving online tutoring to these players from the Eastern Caribbean island, and we are happy that he took those and he benefited in representing the region and the West Indies at this time. Mr. Brown, coming up in this series, looking at the players, one of our commentators in the past asked that Lewis not be included, but looking back now, as we review these 3 ODI games in these series, should Lewis have played the first ODI, seen his performance in this final ODI, with all the odds against the West Indies and rain and so forth, but the way he performed, should he played the first ODI, would it have given us a better chance of winning this series?
Thank you, Mr. Cudlip. In In hindsight, it would be very easy to say yes. The other question would be in place of whom? And I like the way that he had batted in the T20, and we all know what he's capable of. Now, as I say, the question is who would he have played in place of? But the West Indies, although you can see their reasoning, they're a little bit inconsistent in how they go about picking their teams. And one of the glaring things is that one of your top batters should also be able to give you some overs. You know, we saw Sri Lanka do the very same thing where they use people who normally don't bowl, but they use them in these um, games and they performed well. You give them 2, 3 overs, bring them back for one more over, so on and so forth. So somebody needs to be developed so that that extra batsman, that we are not afraid to pick him in the team, especially when the bowler, the person who is there just for his bowling, does not perform or is not performing well. And I hope they learn a lesson from this because essentially we replaced um, Walsh and Shepherd with between Walsh and Shepherd, we only used one bowler to replace them, which was Ford. And I would like to commend Matthew Ford, who quietly bowled extremely well in this game. You know, I was very impressed with the way that he bowled. And we saw that Shepherd, who would seem to be an untouchable in the 50, not in the T20, but in the 50 over game, which I don't really agree with that. Because if he's not going to be decisive in his bowling in the 50 over game, you have to really question him being on the team. And that's why you need that extra batter, especially who can bowl. And we saw in back-to-back games, Athanaze, who, by the way, did not perform well with the bat, but he got a chance to bowl a couple of overs. And we saw Rutherford under very, very difficult circumstances, by the way, forced to bowl the last over when they were swinging the bat at everything all over the place, and he bowled. So I think that if we allow them to develop one of those batsmen to develop their bowling so the team can get a better balance with the best batsmen playing. You know, so to answer your question, I'm happy that Lewis played and a little bit concerning that they were forced to play him.
Yeah.
You more than really using their brain and say, yes, he should be playing.
Yeah, and this creates an headache as well because Lewis now will represent the West Indies opening the batting come Thursday against England. And the question is now, where do we play Alec Athanaze? Because we know that Brandon King is a mainstay. And the younger real place and Antigua will not be conducive to as much spin as we see in Sri Lanka. And just the style of England and the West Indies, it's not likely to come into place either. So, but that's an headache that we will deal with come Wednesday, nevertheless. But Mr. Hall of Famer, looking at Goody Kishmoti, you complain about um, you complain about Aiden Walsh Jr. not having enough opportunity. When we look at Sri Lanka, Jeffrey Vanase gets an opportunity every now and then, but every game that he played in, whether the condition is conducive or not, he put up a very good performance and he creates headache. But the class of Asaranga kept him out of that Sri Lanka team. Would you agree to say the opportunities that Aiden Walsh, especially in the second ODI when the rain wasn't so much, much was left to be desired of him. He came up short, and we might have seen Aiden Walsh Jr. play this final ODI for West Indies in the second ODI there in Sri Lanka? And would you say the limited opportunities that he got, he never made use of it, especially this time around?
Well, this time around, I think it's a bit harsh to judge him on this one performance. I think that, given the circumstance, he's a leg break bowler. And it was very difficult for him to grip that ball and to do things. Yes, his pitches, his deliveries were overpitched a lot of the time. But that, I would put that down to the fact that the ball was wet, possibly a little heavier than normal because of the dew the water it had soaked up. And so I once again would like to see him being given an opportunity to.
But Mr. Heath, one would say in his previous ODIs, his figures are similar.
That may be, as I said, it has been so in one-off. He's not really been given the opportunity to show in 3 or 4 matches what he's capable of. And I'm not saying we should put him there simply because he has some talent. I'm saying he must perform. But the way he has been used in the past has not always been to his advantage, has not always been such that he has an opportunity to really show what he's capable of. So I'd be prepared to give him another show somewhere down in the future to make sure that we're not throwing away the potential of a player. At the same time, I have to thank Dale for pointing out Matthew Ford. Ford's performance in this thing, he had an economy rate of 2.4 in 5 overs. He opened the bowling, which tells me that you'll have competition between Shamar Joseph, Alzari Joseph, Jaden Seals, Matthew Ford. It is good to have that kind of a pressure on each of these bowlers to know that somebody is right behind you knocking on the door. So you have to perform. And it is good to see Matthew Ford step up and perform as well as he did. This goes also for Athanase and Lewis. Sure, Athanase can open, but when he failed, Lewis stepped in and Lewis performed. Now it'll be up to Athanase to come back and show that he is ready to perform. I like to see this type of competition between the players. And certainly it is for the benefit of West Indies to ensure that we have players who recognize that they have to perform in order to remain in the squad. I was disappointed with Jaden Seals' performance, but nonetheless, we know of what he's capable of. But now that we have Matthew Ford, okay, we know Jason Seals can take a back seat while Matthew Ford come into the side without seriously, putting West Indies at a major disadvantage. And the same goes for Alzari Joseph.
Absolutely. And Matthew Ford performed last December against England where he made his debut. And to pick Jaden Seals in the first ODI would tell us that he is above Matthew Ford, but certainly with this performance from Ford, he has edged them out, and he must play on Thursday against England, which we believe he will. So just a quick comment on Goody Kishmuti from both of you.
Well, I've always been in favor of Moti because he has shown way back from the series in Australia what a class bowler he is. Again, he did have to perform with a wet ball at times, but his experience and level of confidence came to the front, and he did very well. And of course, he batted like a real Trojan in that match where West Indies managed to put on that total of 180 in that other ODI series, a match. Go against Moti, he can bat, he can bowl, and we know, I think, if I'm not mistaken, he did score a century in one of the matches for during the West Indies Championship. So I know he can bat, And I know if it wasn't a century, it was a half a century. But at any rate, he has shown his quality and his skill, and he has certainly cemented his place in the squad for the West Indies. So Akeal Hussain had better step up and start to perform, because we know Gudakesh Moti has now taken over the reign as the #1 spinner in the Caribbean.
Absolutely. Mr. Brown.
Gudakesh Moti, what a revelation. His bowling has always been there, and he's very consistent, very, very consistent. And I think he got a little bit pushed in the background when Hussain took those wickets against, I think it was Uganda. And he got pushed in the background. And, Hussain deserved all the credit he got. But when you want a consistent performer from day in, day out, you go to Moti. And now we get this revelation about his batting, where he's so positive in his batting that he shows up the persons who bat higher up in the order. And you wonder why they can't just see the ball and stroke the ball the manner in which he does. And he's not supposed to be a specialist batsman. So I love Gudakesh Moti, and I think that between him and Rutherford will get the edge naturally. But him and Rutherford were, for me, the two standout players for us in this part, on this tour. Moti and Rutherford. And just as an icing on the cake, Matthew Ford's bowling, just one inning, but it was enough to make me believe. And disappointment, I have to join Mr. Heath with what he said before I turn over back to you. Jaden Seals was a great disappointment. And we don't know, or well, I don't know what happened to Shamar Joseph, because I know he went home early. And going home early, it was, 1 or 2 days before the team was scheduled to depart?
Yeah.
So I don't know what happened to him, why he left. But as Mr. Heath points out, if you're not going to perform and you don't have that real team spirit with you, there are others waiting to take your place. And this is what the message that, Seals and them, they have to learn to bowl in these formats if they are going to be picked. And for me, it was obvious that the variety that was needed, the deception that was needed, when they tried to bowl the slower ball, it was telegraphed. So the batsmen just hit them out of the park. And when they tried to bowl the natural ball, they bowl with too much pace. And in one-day cricket, the batsman will use your pace against you to get the ball to the boundary. And I was so disappointed in Jaden Seals in this going on. And I hope Shamar Joseph, all is well with him.
Absolutely. And we understand that Akeal Hussain would have welcomed his child into the world, and he will play against England starting on Thursday. And so we're happy for Akeal Hussain, and that might explain his absence from the West Indies team for this tour of Sri Lanka. But the tour of Sri Lanka is ended, and so our coverage of West Indies tour in Sri Lanka 2023 comes to an end, and we will be back with you to cover the England series, especially the first ODI, and that starts on Thursday afternoon. We'll be here on Wednesday to give you the preview and also to reveal to you our thoughts on the players that are picked for that particular tour. But to close out, Mr. Heath and Mr. Brown, your thoughts on Sheffin Rutherford. A year ago, we hear about him lack fitness, lack the will to play for West Indies, but got his chance, took it with both hands, literally keep it my out of the West Indies team. Now a mainstay in the T20 and ODI team. What about Test cricket for him, in your closing thoughts?
Without a doubt, Junior, without a doubt, he should be in the squad, if not in the team, because we need players who has the discipline And based on his comment that you highlighted earlier, he knows what it takes to perform, the discipline and the adjustment that is necessary.
And in his interview, he said that he went to the field earlier with the batting coach to get himself ready for what was to come.
And I've certainly heard statements like that from other international players who have excelled in their craft.
Yeah.
So it's good to note that Rutherford has obviously seen the light, taken the message to heart, and is working at improving. And that is what I want to see. And I would be really happy to see him being advanced as far as the test matches are also concerned.
Absolutely. Mr. Brown.
And I will echo those thoughts because, again, you know, growing up, living through the time when persons like Andre Russell and Pollard got dubbed as strictly limited overs and painted themselves in that corner. I hope and pray the same thing does not happen with Rutherford, because when our best batters, hand-eye coordination, and God knows we have lost a lot of them, people like Pooran, you know, why they don't play test cricket is beyond me, because they are clearly a cut above the rest of the players as far as their hand-eye coordination and technique is concerned. And the fact that we don't see them in the test arena is one of the things that's holding back West Indies cricket. So I hope and pray to God that Rutherford especially, and persons like Pooran and Sheho, these guys will come into the test team and give us our best players. Absolutely.
Absolutely. And that's it from us here at the West Indies Cricket Development Academy TV. We'll be back with you on Wednesday to preview the first ODI between the West Indies and England in the series that dub We Rally. So we will be here to rally around the West Indies in England Tour of the West Indies 2024. And with that, we close out West Indies Tour of Sri Lanka 2024 with Mr. Sheffield Rutherford interview, and after which we'll close out. Hall of Famer Dennis C., thank you for being here. Honorary Secretary of the Cricket Hall of Fame, Mr. Dale Brown, thank you for being here, and we look forward to have you both as we cover England and the West Indies come Wednesday.
Shafin, good show with the bat. Would you like to take the Sri Lankan wickets around the world with you?
First of all, I want to thank God for the opportunity. And I played a lot of wickets. Yeah, it's a good wicket. It was good for me. But yeah, there are some wickets that I would love to take home. And yeah, I would say this is one.
It's just a word on Devin Lewis's batting. I mean, it looked beyond West Indies. At one point, you had to chase significantly more than what Sri Lanka got. A word on his effort tonight.
We know Evan is a good player. You know, he's one of West Indies' best white ball cricketer. You know, he's been out for a while, but you know, it's good to see that, you know, he come back and, you know, he stamp his authority. You know, I've worked with him a while now, and you know what he can do. I'm not surprised, and you know, hopefully, you know, that he will continue to, you know, do good things for West Indies and, you know, for himself.
The Sri Lankan wickets around the world with you?
First of all, I want to thank God for the opportunity. And I played a lot of wickets. Yeah, it's a good wicket. It was good for me. But yeah, I mean, it's a tough wicket that I, you know, love to take. I would say it's just one of these series. I would say this is one. And working hard on bat and spin. I've been